Hello again, Lionel Cartwright here. Welcome back to Off the Charts. Appreciate you jumping in with me. You know, disruption has become such a fact of life in so many industries now, so many lines of work, especially with AI. We're on a whole new wave of disruption. But I think you could honestly say that music was the canary in the coal mine, the first real example of what deep disruption looks like. This is back in the early 2000s. Before then, disruption in the music business, at least for 50, 60 years, was just format change, right? Going from cylinders to wax, going from vinyl to cassettes to CDs, and then the early 2000s hit. We go to downloads, at that point paid downloads, and then about 10 years later or so, we go to streaming, which has changed everything. All to say that the revenue structures in music have changed dramatically. And by dramatically, I mean moving the decimal point 2 to 3 spaces to the left. What used to be a penny business has become a micro penny business. And I know that's true for a lot of other professions now. But I really want to feature people and stories on this show that show that there are other ways of going about employing your creativity, other ways of defining creative success. And today's guest, oh my goodness, is the poster child for this. Her name is Mo Tedder. I think you're gonna like her story. I was blown away when I first heard Mo. I heard her with some other people give their life story, and I knew by how articulate she was that she had to be a writer. Come to find out, she's a songwriter, a talented songwriter, talented performer. But Mo, like a lot of people who are trying to find their footing in music these days, wasn't finding it. And between dealing with that and dealing with some of her own issues, addiction, etc., she landed in a place that I think is so beautiful. And it brought in her skills as a therapist. She ended up going to school and eventually getting her master's in therapy. But she found a way to bring together her therapist skills and her music skills, her songwriting skills together. And it's resulted in an organization she calls Healing Heartstrings. Now check this out. She sits in rooms with trauma survivors and writes songs, not just for them, but with them.
Take my hand, take a deep breath, let go. Shame and regret, and what we're meant to hold. I see you, you see me. To be, we're free. We're free.
It's an amazing thing that she's doing. But you need to hear her tell her story. It's so inspiring. And I hope somehow it will encourage you that if you haven't found the right fit for your creative expression, to not give up on that and not just look at the conventional ways that our culture says, well, you want to be a musician, you do this, you get a record deal, you get a song in the charts. There are so many other ways, and I would even say healthier ways that will fit who you are, that will fit your wiring. Anyway, I was inspired by this exchange, and I think you will be too. Here's my conversation with songwriter, therapist, Mo Tedder. Mo, the reason I started this podcast is simple. After doing music for so many years, decades, I just feel like it's a good time to re-examine what creative success means. And I feel like our culture really only has two gauges to measure it, and that's mainly how popular did it make you, and how rich did it make you? How much money did it make you? So when I came across your story, I immediately wanted to have you on because I think what you're doing is so remarkable in that it combining your skills as a songwriter with your professional skills as a therapist is lights up all my lights. And I'd just like to dive right in by hearing you describe what this thing is that you're doing. It's so amazing.
Well, to start off, before I completely describe, I would say that it was kind of a beautiful mistake, and one that is not a mistake at all. Looking back, but it's one that has been more purposeful and more meaningful than I ever imagined songwriting could be. What I thought songwriting could be when I first moved to town. So, a little bit about kind of the overview of what I do. So what I do, I walk in to a room, whether it's with one person, a couple, a family, a group of people. I've worked with groups
Wow.
up to 50 people in a room. Yeah. It stressed me out at first. I'm like, oh my God, what do I want to do? But again, it's like anytime I second guess the power of creativity, I mean, I'm not in control of it. I'm just a vehicle
Love it.
for it. So what I've developed over the few years, more than, I guess, 4 or 5 years now, is being able to combine my passion for creativity and the power of music and in the therapy space. It's not something I created, right? This is something that has been done years and years before me. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and it's been a beautiful journey. So my main goal is to get the truth of the story. It's not about writing that hit. It's about, okay, how can we be honest in this space? Was it hard? What did life look like before trauma? What did life look like before this event, this accident, this loss? And what did life look during? Like, how are you managing? Is it like, I can't even get out of bed? Let's write the truth about it. And let's also give you a path forward of what do you need to remind yourself to come back to? And this can be a vehicle for that of, okay, we can recognize and really sit with what is. Because I don't think that there is one path for one person when it comes to events that people experience and how they, grow through it or are just in it. So each person is different. And I think that's the beautiful thing about, having the ability to like step in that space with them, hold it, be like, okay, let's write through it. In that space, when you don't want to get out of bed, what do you need to hear in that moment? And being able to write that into a song, and it's 3 minutes, or, giving a broad of 3 minutes of you can have a pause for 3 minutes. And if that's the message you need to hear just to get up and no shower, or brush your teeth, just for that day, then that's exactly what I want to do. That's how I want to show up and be able to, provide that to that person and something very tangible that they can take away. I think a lot of times in therapy work, it's like, okay, but what do we talk about? What do we do? What did we work through? And the song actually is that tangible aspect that they can take away and look back and remember, and also remind themselves in that moment, it's okay. Wherever you're at, it's okay.
Amazing. What do you think it is, Mo, about? It's actually 2 questions about songs and songwriting. What is it about songs? Like, I'm kind of wanting to dive down into, because we're in a town, it's song, 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 song. To the point, and listen, I'm so excited about talking to you. I'm blown away, sincerely, at what you're doing, because both sides to have the wherewithal to sit in a room with people who have experienced trauma and bring this art form into it. What is it about this art form that intersects with trauma and offers healing by engaging in the work of writing a song?
Mm-hmm. I think there's two areas in that. And the one where would be, my training of what I know, about music and how that is impactful in somebody's work. But also there's a spiritual component that I couldn't even claim to understand in my own story. So I'm going to hit the clinical side first of the beauty of the song. It activates your limbic system, which is creativity is held there, but also trauma. So with a song, there's a beginning, middle, and end. So that it's like it creates a container for you to really go in deep and work through these things while holding you there. And then knowing that there's going to be a conclusion, there's going to be this walking through that. So on the clinical side, that is a piece. On, a more spiritual side, is something that has been my only cornerstone consistency in my life growing up. Even through my own story, it's the one place I, whatever you want to call it, felt God, felt connected to whatever is greater than. And I think that was my first interaction with what is connection to a higher power. And I'm like, wow, sitting up on stage in church, playing for the first time, obviously that's shifted and become something, different. And thankfully it has. But to be able to be connected in that space allows me to connect with other people, no matter what it is. So it's like, even within my own story and having, lived life a little bit, a few lifetimes in a little bit of 28 years, it's really been a beautiful and almost like a safe place to explore the heavier topics in life. So I think there's, that's a twofold question. And I mean, songwriting is the most, beautiful art form that, I'm attracted to, just because it puts our language to a universal language, which is melody and movement, which from like the moment, like we are created in a body, it is a beat. And when we're sitting across from somebody or next to somebody, like we are literally syncing up and connecting within deep. So it's like this thing that spans far beyond the melody that we come up with. And it's far beyond the words that we come up in the room of. If it's just that time to sit and connect, then that is the most important.
How do you, like I've always, to this day, I'm not a great co-writer, Mo. I don't know. I've always tended to write better by myself. So when in any co-writing session, it tends to bring up insecurities and, self-doubt. That's just in a regular old co-writing session. How do you, if you're sitting in a room with people who've experienced trauma and they're bringing that to this writing session, how do you hold space for that? And how do you make them feel comfortable just offering creative choices?
That's a good question. And of course, I think, how do I create space for them?
Wow.
It's I create space for myself. That I am a human in the room, and of course, insecurities are going to come up. I think being in Nashville, you throw a rock and you find somebody that sings better than you. Like, honestly, you like spin around, throw a rock, and it's just like one of those things of like, okay, it's not about me. I can have these insecurities, and at the end of the day, what I'm offering, I am the vehicle. I don't own it. I just to be there and catch it when it comes. And I think, a lot of in the conversation, I say, some of the best songs, this is how I lead up with everybody actually to kind of ease my own anxiety about it. Cause I'd never met these people before. I'm just rolling in like cold. So yeah, it's entertaining. It's a challenge in a way. I enjoy challenge, and some are harder than others. But in a way, it's just like I say, hey, any of the best songs I've ever heard in my life, it's like a conversation, whether it's a conversation with ourselves, a conversation with somebody else in the audience, a conversation with somebody that we love. So my goal in this is just have great conversation. I'm going to ask you questions. We're going to laugh. We may cry, but there is no pressure on the song. I was like, that is my job at the end of the day, is to catch the words that come out from our conversation and develop this song for you to take away. And I always say at the end, but I've never not come away with a song from the conversation. So, there is a pressure on because I only have 2 hours with them. So it's like this, like push, push, push. And the moment that I get up in my head of like, oh my God, we only have a verse, no chorus, and no second verse, and stress out, it just falls out. It's like, oh man, I got to get out of the way and let creativity do what it does. Cause me stressing about it doesn't do anything.
Wow.
So,
fireworks going off in my brain. Another thing that really attracted me to what you're doing is I grew up in the 70s, Mo. And a friend of mine and me have this playlist that we put together, and we called it Transcendent. And a friend of mine who is a country singer, Kathy Mattea, said years ago, I think I even read it somewhere, where she said, when we were growing up, the songs that we heard meant something to us. And I can be moved by some confessional song or Sugar Pie Honey Bunch, truly. But I gotta say, I'm kind of aching for the singer-songwriter explosion that happened like the first half of the 70s was totally people who would never win American Idol or America's Got Talent. It wasn't so much a singing contest as it was a heart contest. Not even a contest. It was people wearing their heart on their sleeve. And those songs at a pretty young age, really moved me. So when I hear someone like you saying that what you're writing about, how you're writing about it, that immediately, I'm kind of hungry for that. And again, all due respect to dance music, and it's great. I can truly appreciate it.
yeah.
But man, the music that's meant the most to me is singer-songwriter stuff. And some voices that would never even get past the first round of auditions for one of these talent shows. And listen, you and I both have friends who are insanely great singers. And I love that. And I can totally be moved by that.
Mm-hmm.
But especially when it's infused by something coming from a deeper place, then I'm totally in.
Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you. I'm ready for the songwriter boom again. I think 50 years later is about time. It's kind of been, and I'm thankful for it because it led me to finding what I do now. But getting a few cuts, it's just like, oh yes, like this is what it means. And then you get $5 every year, and you're just like, how am I supposed to do this? Like, and meeting with the people that sign people, and it's just like, well, we need a drinking song, we need a party song, and like, don't get me wrong, I've written it, but it's just like, that doesn't fill my soul. Like, I don't feel like I need, there's people that do it really, really well. And I'm going to let them do that really, really well. Just find what you're good at and do it. And, my definition of success has looked very different in the past 4 years than when I first came to town. And, looking back of what I was pushing, the publishing deal and all of that comes with that, just led me to, a situation in my life where I had to step away. And it's like in that willingness of like, okay, well, I'm going to step away from songwriting. A year later, something beautiful like doing this work came along, but it is in that willingness of like rediscovering who I was and what I wanted to do and what success looks like and what was meaningful to me. Because it's like celebrating, bad choices isn't something that I'm into anymore. There's a space for it and I listen to it. I love a good song when it comes along, but it's just for, what I want to do in life and how I want to be in relationship with people, whether it be, personally or musically. It's like, I really want to sit in a space where I'm moving, life, love, truth forward, not celebrating, unhealthy quality life.
Wow. So. You're my poster person for this because I love what you just said, but I think I'm even going to use I think it's kind of, it's beyond sad. It's kind of tragic that we've dumbed down the definition of creative success to fame and money. And listen, if we make something that makes money, great. If we make something that gets an honor or, award, whatever, great. I'm not against any of that. It's the approach that I think the pendulum has got to swing back a bit because the values of fame and money, I've said on this show now several times, there's so many other metrics in life, mental health, emotional health, relational health, physical health, that to discount those or downplay those all in the name of becoming more famous or becoming famous or making money. Again, those are fine, but when they totally usurp those other values, let's talk about mental health for a minute, because that's your field of expertise. What do you think that looks like for people? I love your story, and you're like all of us that come to town. Like, we want to be successful. We want to be in the game. We want to get a song on the radio. We'd love to get a song that millions of people know. But what challenges, Mo, does that present to someone's mental health, or can it present?
When it comes to purely relying on one arena such as fame or money?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a dangerous game to play. It's like putting all your eggs in one basket. And I have never met somebody that, was very successful in their career or very known in their career that didn't have a lifetime of experiences that nobody knew about and nobody was holding with them. So, where I think that is a great thing to be successful, that's awesome, but it's about balance. It's about, can you hold, which is a huge responsibility, fame and money comes 10 times more responsibilities of like, okay, how can I create boundaries in my life to have space for me, not just what's on stage or not just what I'm singing, but really cultivate relationships in life. And, unfortunately, with the way that the music business is set up, there's not much space for that. It's all money driven of, you know, people controlling careers and wanting you to make money and be more successful because it benefits everybody. And there's also that layer of that person is now employing how
Right.
many people? You have your band. So it's like this double-edged sword of you have this push, but then you have the responsibility of, oh, I'm taking care of people. Like, now I have to do this. Well, when is there time for me? I don't know. So I don't think there's a clear-cut answer with what it looks like because each individual is different. So I think it's easy for
Right.
me to talk generalities of, this is, there's got to be boundaries and balance, but it doesn't look like that for everyone. And depending on age and how long you've been in business, where you're at, if you're just coming up, if you've been in for a few years, because it's like, you know better than anybody, right? Once you catch the wave, you kind of got to ride it. You have to say yes a lot more than you have to say no. And that is a journey that I've, walked alongside people that, when they're in it, that's each individual's person, they're to say yes or no. And saying no may result in a very different career for them. So I don't think it's cut and dry. I don't think it's simple. I think this is a very complex business to be in. And I think my number one priority as, a therapist that works with people that are in those positions is to just walk alongside, not push them anyway, but just sit with them in it of like, all right, this is where we're at. What does it look like to work within your realities? Not completely blow the system up because that's not going to happen. Obviously, there's things that have been in the work for, years before and years after us. So it's more of like that each individual person needs different things. So it's like, how can we work with it, not against it? How can you be healthier with where you're at? And so I think it's a very complex situation. So
I think that it's always been a very tricky marriage, art and commerce, when you marry the two, right? It's so tricky. But Mo, when I talk to folks your age and younger, the pressure from a corporate model, I can't imagine the pressure. And largely, I think because not only are we on the creative side feeling the drastic reduction in how much you get paid to do this, but these companies are feeling it. So everybody's under this gun to try to wring out a dollar wherever they can. But I want to ask you, are there any practices for, and since we're creatives, I'll ask it toward creatives. Are there any creatives for people who are, wrestling with this fame and money world that they may be in? That those, again, are the two metrics. If those metrics, we want those metrics to be topped out, and let's not even worry about the others. But the others are there. Like you said, it's a complex thing. Are there any practices you could suggest for someone's mental health when you're trying to create something good, real, but the pressures you're up against now, again, for people much younger than me, I just can't imagine it. And I wonder what a therapist like yourself could offer in terms of practices that could kind of help right the ship a little bit.
yes, of course. And also, I think there's there's a difference in each individual in what they need. So I would definitely lead with, like, what are your values? What are your non-negotiables for yourself? So I think that is different for each individual, mainly because, what fills me up is different from what fills somebody else up. And from the viewpoint of, there's some situations that I've never
Right.
been through personally. So, I'm not speaking from a space of like, oh, I've been this famous person. Oh, I don't claim to ever be able to fully understand what that means. But I think that one of the primary things that I really want to kind of work through with a lot of my clients in these situations of what are your values or your
Mm.
non-negotiables or yourself. So if you value alone time, how can you set that up? Or you value having some freedom within your really crammed
Yes.
packed schedule. Okay, put that in your schedule of freedom within schedule. Like, so 2-hour block, do it, because it's like, okay, working within reality. I'm not a person, I'm a very straight shooter as a mental health therapist. That is some people's cup of tea, and other people, they hate it. But I'm a big proponent of like, hey, if it doesn't work for you, great. That's okay. Don't just do the self-care things or go get a massage because that's what it is, self-care. But figure out what really works for you. If it's taking a
That's
walk
right.
for 10 minutes, I mean, that completely changed my day. Like, and it's stupid. Some of the simplest things are what works. And it pisses me off at times. And also, it's like, oh, did I drink enough water today? Silly. Did I eat today? Because, if your body's not functioning properly, guess what your mental health's doing? It is in the can. So it's like some of just the most basic things when life gets overwhelming, which happens, every single day for each one of us. It just looks very different from the bottom to the top of, okay, how can I take care of the basics? And if I can just get through the basics today, and today's not a good day, that's okay. So I think it's going to be individual for each person, but also, doing the basics, figuring out what do you value in life and trying to, implement that and what is aligned with your integrity and who you are. And if there's situations in your life that is incongruent with that, figuring out, okay, then I have some decisions to make. Because, the going against your values and incongruency within your life will take you down quicker than you realize. And I'm speaking from personal experience and also speaking, from working with hundreds of thousands of clients of living with
Cool.
incongruence in your life will cause more problems than
Okay, hold up,
anything
hold up.
else.
Say that again. That's amazing.
The living with incongruence will cause more ripples in your life than anything else.
So, what do you say to a young person, could have been a young me, full disclosure, that says, yes, but you don't understand. I have to blank, blank, blank. I have to fill up my writing calendar or I lose my deal. I have to tour, fill in the blank, or I lose my deal. I think sometimes you can get it. Again, I know from experience, you can get into that mindset. I have to, but I have to make so much money. And like you said, now I got people working for me. I don't have any choice. That gets really rock and hard place, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But I want to break down your sentence structure in that. It's yes, but erases everything in front. So I have to is all you have is I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. And you can do anything. Absolutely. I'm not here to tell you you can't do something or you shouldn't do something. That isn't my space to tell you. But what are you willing to give up to do those have tos? And if it's yourself at the end of the day, you're going to reap the repercussions of that. And that's okay. If that is your choice, then we'll deal with that and I'll walk alongside you while you do that. And at the end of the day, what are you willing to do? So if you're willing to, make some compromises, there will be repercussions on that. Just as if you're willing to say, no, I need 2 hours or I need to take a day off from writing, you'll reap the repercussions of that. And I don't think there's a right or wrong ever in the journey. I think each decision leads us to where we need to be to either, make the choices we need to make or, man, I'm never going to do that again. But I think that's the part of the journey that I think is beautiful about, being a songwriter, being a performer, an artist of like, okay,
Yes.
you have to fall on your face some. Because in that, we're learning so much. I think in my journey, if I didn't fall on my face, I would have never landed here. And that's why it's like walking through my own issues with addiction. It's like I hated it at first. I'm like, wait, why can't I drink? Why do I have to stop playing in bars, playing writers' rounds? Why? And then being on this side of it, it's like, oh, because that creates space for something else. And it's like, you have to go through all of it. Unfortunately, I think that's the human condition. I tell my clients all the time, congrats, you're diagnosed with human. It's just, we each make decisions every single day. And, at the end of the day, we see how those decisions affect us. And I think often we can wide view it and say, I have to do this to get to this point. But at the end of the day, is that the point that, ideally what we think we're going to end up, is that what we're actually getting? It may not. So it's like, if I can break it down, simplify it into one day of like, okay, how can I just take care of this thing today? Whether it's me, whether it's go write 3 songs in a day, whatever that may be. If I can just break it down, simplify it. Okay, what do I need to do today to take care of myself, take care of my relationships, take care of whatever else needs to be taken care of? Then it really simplifies and doesn't become this doomsday of like, if I don't do this, then I'll never be successful.
I think where you've arrived at this point, in your life is such a beautiful thing, Mo. And one of the takeaways I'm hoping for with this conversation with you is for creative folks out there to realize your creative gift, their creative gift. And again, I know this from experience. Maybe it has more expression possibilities than you're currently aware of. Again, and listen, I hope you get a big hit next week. Mo, I hope your song gets recorded. I hope it goes #1. I hope it wins a Grammy. I think that would be fantastic. But I think you finding this other expression, and what I want to ask you is finding this other expression, sitting in a room with people who have firsthand experience of trauma and writing a song, not just you getting the information and you leaving and writing the song and coming back, you sitting in there with them. Like, how did you find this, get out of the funnel that says, well, if you're not a hit artist, if you're not a hit songwriter, you might as well put your creativity away. There's no reason to ever do it. And I think you're just a prime example of that's a huge lie. There's all kinds of ways to express your creativity. But how did you get there, and how did you find this beautiful employment of all your gifts and skills coming together?
Yeah. I think that's a very long story, but I'll make it kind of consolidated a little bit. So I moved to town. I grew up playing in church, and it was really, like I said earlier, it was the one space where I truly felt connected to something greater than me, and just it was the one love of my life. Uh, and then coming out, it was impact, and that was not welcomed anymore. So I kind of
Wow.
put down music for about 4 years, going through college. Um, and then I moved to Nashville at a drop of a hat because I couldn't go home. So that just wasn't a healthy space for me to be in. Moved to Nashville,
Oh,
wasn't
really?
planning on doing music, but no. Then I let somebody stay on my couch. Looking back, probably not a good idea. But one of the girls that I had met down on Broadway who was singing, she needed a place to crash that night. So I was just like, you can crash on the couch. And we ended up staying up until 5 and writing because, of course, I have a small obsession with guitars. So I had a handful, and of course, I'm writing because that was, my thing. And we ended up staying up until 5 and writing. And I was like, this is it.
Wow.
My life has been a beautiful events of disaster and tripping into things that I was meant to be doing, but I had no idea. So that kind of kicked off of, she read one of my songs and she's like, this is actually pretty good. It's like, thanks. Somebody that does this professionally and does it every single night. Oh, okay. So that kind of kicked off. I started playing writer's rounds and all of that, which led to being in bars every single night with my experience, growing up in not the most ideal situations and, a lot of wounding in relationships. I kind of got involved in a little bit heavier drinking, and then that became something more. So in 2020, I was like, all right, something's got to change. My mental health was awful. I didn't, have big consequences. I was out from the outside. Nobody could tell I ever had an issue. So it was more of that internal journey of like, wow, I'm doing what I love, but I hate life. What's wrong? Because I was writing every single day. I was in the music space. I loved it. But I was like, but what's next? Like, is there something more than this? And that kind of led to my journey of getting sober and then trying to stay sober. So it was about a year of trying to, still write, still do writer's rounds, be in bars. And it doesn't bode well for trying to not drink. So eventually I, got sober and stayed sober. And that came with the agreement to myself of, hey, if I can't do music and stay sober, then I might have to choose one. So I kind of stepped away from music for a second, stepped away from writing, and just threw everything I had into, when you're in it, just surviving one day at a time, to be honest, because it was rough. So I had put it down for a year. I had started working at a behavioral health hospital with adolescents. In a weird way, I was like kind of parenting my teenage self. And I was like, well, I don't hate this. I could actually do this. And a lot of, counseling those kids, it felt like songwriting in a way. Because I'm like, oh, we're just sitting in a room talking about life. So in that journey, I started implementing songwriting with, leading groups. So with these adolescents that have seen more life than me. At 13, they've experienced more life than most people. So I started doing that. Believe it or not, I'm on an acoustic guitar and we're writing rap songs. It was so cool. It was so cool. And then, that led me to finding another company that was like, hey, we can't hire you as a therapist because you don't have your master's, but have you ever thought about combining songwriting and the therapeutic space? And I was like, actually, I've already been doing this. So it was this beautiful, like, invitation back into music, but with something I cared a lot about. Without, like, I didn't go searching for this. This is the thing. It's like, oh, if I just put my one foot in front of the next and just do like the next right thing for me, then it's like, holy crap, things happen. And it's like, it kind of snowballed. And then I started working with companies over in Utah, North Carolina, up in Michigan. And it's just like, it just grew and grew and grew without me putting much work into it at all. And I was like, oh, this might be a thing. So it's just like incredible. And, I tell people often, it's like, hearing my song sang in arena, that was cool. Like that first moment where you're just like, oh my gosh, hearing 20 people sing the song back, gone through unimaginable pain. I will take that over an arena any day.
Wow.
Any. So it's like this beautiful turn of events of, okay, I had to take care of myself so I could do this work. Because if I hadn't have done that, I would have never been able to sit in this space. I would never have been able to go back and get my master's or, be able to heal the things that, I was getting drunk over. So beautiful mistakes throughout my life that have led me here. And, I don't claim to know all the answers or know what each person needs, but, I do know the power of song and how it has transformed my life from a very young age to, being able to use it as, this catalyst for people's healing.
Tell us about Healing Heartstrings.
So it's my company that I designed around it. I work with companies, no matter how big, how small, no matter who is there. There's a lot of companies that do it for veterans, songwriting for veterans. And I think, you don't have to go through something super traumatic to be able to, experience this gift of songwriting. So, really it's not only for trauma. I've done wedding songs. I've done, songs for people that have passed, and just from celebration of life, celebration of two lives joining together. Or I've also written songs for people that have had kids that they want their kids to have. So it's kind of it's become something much more beautiful, much bigger than I ever thought it would be. And it's just been an honor to, be able to be there to witness it and also be a part of it. Like it's the coolest gift that I could have ever received in my life. It's something that I'm super passionate about.
Has this helped Mo take the pressure off songwriting, purely as an income?
Yes, and I think there was a year and a half where I was doing it solely. So that's what I was relying upon for my living. And I think I definitely felt the pressure of like, oh my gosh, like I need to find, people that are wanting to do this. I need to push for marketing. And I felt that pressure and I was like, ooh, this doesn't feel good. But I think that's where when I talk about alignment and incongruence of I never want to say yes because I need the money. I want to say yes because it's something I'm passionate about. And so when I was finding myself of like doing the math in my head, if I take this third session on the day, I was like, well, hold up. I can't. Like, that is not good with me. It's not good for the people that I work with. So, again, it's finding that balance in my life of what feels good and what benefits the people that I work with and also what benefits me. So, like, if I am drawing from an empty well, they're going to get, they're still going to get a song, but it's not okay with me how I showed up. And I think that's the beauty of recovery in any form of fashion of, okay, I know what I value. I know what's congruent with me. So when I step outside of that, I can regret. I can come back and be like, okay, how can I do this better?
That congruency you're talking about, I think it presupposes that you know yourself, that you know your true self. And I'm not sure, I'll just use myself. My country music career going away, Mo, was a really good thing, because I don't think I would have handled it well, because I had, since I was a preteen, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to move to Nashville, Tennessee. I wanted to be in country music. I wanted to do the thing. But I wish there was, and I think people like you are in such a great position to help this in our culture, that you need to get to know yourself apart from who you are, certainly as a performer. If that's your main identity, identity is such a big word with me. And I just love hearing what you're saying. That I want to go back to something you just said too, that it sounds like you, and maybe you had to be, maybe you'd reached a point, you had to be open to other things that you were interested in. You said, well, I don't hate this. I guess I feel like it serves creatives really well to find other interests. And again, I'm probably doing this whole podcast as a self-therapy, but it's so helpful, to find other parts of yourself so you can know if your choices are congruent with who you really are. Does this make any sense?
Absolutely. Because there's so many versions of ourselves. And it's this commitment to one avenue, one path. And that's beautiful. Like, I have worked with people that, that is their thing. I love that. But it's when that one path gets in the way of you as a human. Like, that's when it becomes disruptive. It's this path or nothing, either or. That it can really disrupt a life, because at the end of the day, you don't know what's coming tomorrow. So if you're like destroying yourself for this one path, and then, the unimaginable happens, or eventually the destroying of self will eventually catch up with you. I hate to, pop that bubble for anybody, but it eventually catches up. So it's like, when those things happen, it's not if, but when. Who are you outside of a performer? Because if you've continually put on this mask of like, well, this is who I am, and you're receiving all of this, attention, this
totally,
they love me, right? I have to give me that love, right? But that is filling the hole of I never received it. Then that's a dangerous exchange you're doing, because it's filling something outside of yourself with something that's happening internal. So anything that I'm using externally to fill that internal space, that emptiness, is a dangerous game to play, because addiction doesn't only show up as drug and alcohol. That shows up as relationships, as workaholism, as, food, sex and love. Across the board, it's anything that I use to medicate what's happening internally.
This is so good. I just have such a heart for people who fall in love with music. And hey, this could be true probably with any creative pursuit. One of the things I want to encourage people is I believe humans are creative, not just musicians, not just painters. find a way to express that. And sure, maybe it's writing a song. Maybe it's planting a garden. Maybe it's raising your kids. Maybe it's starting a business. But we are all creative. But man, to be open, to place the burden on that creative expression, first of all, to provide your income, that just, wow, that's really problematic, as I know. But
I really do respect the people that are, following that, but there's a cost to that as well. That my relationship with creativity has to shift and change. So even in the evolution of what is my relationship with creativity, no matter at whatever part of your journey you're in, whether you're just starting, you're just getting to town and you're going to writers' rounds, or you're playing arenas, like that evolves as you grow,
yes,
and it has to evolve.
You sitting in a room with trauma victims, what impact has that had on your own songwriting?
That's a good question.
I just can't imagine working in those spaces, and then it has to kind of rub off, not topically even, just, I don't know. I'd be curious.
Yeah, I think in my journey as a songwriter, often I will say I'm a curator. So I got really good at dancing around whatever's in the room, right? I can make pretty words around, life sucks. Like I can dance around what is in the room. But I think working through that fear of sitting with people that are courageous enough to say, hey, this is awful. Like I have not stopped crying for 3 months. Like people that are just so honest and saying, and I think that's the beauty of the space of a therapeutic room, right? We can just call it how it is. But I think that has encouraged me to be more courageous in songwriting of how can I just say it? Because I think there's this fear of if I just say it, what does that mean? What are people going to think about me when I stand up on stage? Yeah. And it's not pretty and flabbery around it, or it's not super poetic, or there isn't enough story around it. So I think it's been a journey for me of I am encouraged by these people that are just willing to just say it.
That's beautiful. That makes so much sense. Don't dance around it.
I mean, some of the best songs I've ever heard, they just put it right in the front line. Opening line, there it is. And I'm like,
yeah, one of my really good friends in town that I've known for like 30 plus years is Alan Shamblin, who's written some amazing songs. He and Mike Reed wrote I Can't Make You Love Me, and he wrote The House That Built Me with Tom Douglas. But I told him recently, I said, I think your superpower as a writer is pain. He like goes right for the pain of a situation and certainly doesn't sugarcoat it, but doesn't even shy away from it. Bonnie Raitt cut a song of his called Valley of Pain. That's one of my favorite Alan Shamblin songs. But he'd always say, start digging, follow the tears, follow the joy. And man, if you're sitting in a room with people who have gone through unthinkable circumstances, I got to believe there is no smoothing anything over.
No. But that's the thing, I think, with any type of healing, any type of loss, any type of life, really, right? I think as a society, we've gotten really good at the platitudes of, okay, they're there on the front end, but what about a month later? Yeah. When tragedy hits, and tragedy looks different for each person. Maybe it's a loss of a relationship. Maybe it's a loss of a person. Maybe it's a loss of many people. And it's beautiful to be in a room where we just talk about it, the honest truth. And it's just like, there's no expectations on it. There's no expectations on them of, right, in this time, we're just gonna, talk about the reality of what happens, what life is like now, what life like was before, and what life could be like after. Because it's not all rainbows and sunshine. When something is gone, so is a part of ourselves, or so is a version of our life that we thought. I mean, it's the same with everybody. It's not only in tragic situations, but it's like we walk through life, we meet situations that change our course. Whether it's a decision to move to a different city, whether it's a decision to move away from Nashville, you're saying goodbye to a version of yourself. Or this, what could be a reality of yourself if you would have stayed. And that's okay. All of it, the reaction, the emotions that come with it, that's fair. It's your journey. And in that decision, who knows what's on the other side of it? What it could lead to. Okay, if this is right for me, I'm going to do it. It could lead to something you should be doing, or you could be doing.
I keep going back to something in you was open, and maybe it was out of necessity, sure. But I mean, the odds are millions of people who are out there writing songs are probably never gonna, first of all, probably never gonna move to a music town, not get a publishing deal, not get a song recorded. But when you mention expectations, for me, it really helped divorcing creativity from expectations and outcomes. I'll not say the name, but I was sitting with a Hall of Fame songwriter once, and he and his wife, and he was telling me about a song that he was just really excited about. And it had been written a while, and his partner said, yeah, but has it been cut? And that just really hit me. Wow, there it is. So if it doesn't get cut, if it doesn't have said outcome, then I just really want to come against that. Because I think just for humans, it's such a great exercising your creativity. Again, whatever that is, with us, it's music. But man, when you attach an outcome to it, you've kind of poisoned the well, maybe?
I think we poison ourselves for the possibility of what it could be, of what it's supposed to be. And where I think, this business, and I mean, any business across art, right, is shifted and changed. Obviously, I'm young, so I did not experience, what it was like in the 80s and 90s and even, 70s of, okay, you come to town, getting a publishing deal was actually lucrative. You could live off of it, right? But I think there's beauty in where we're at now of you don't need a publishing company. Some of the best songs I ever heard were in writers' rounds that will never be heard on radio. I mean, I am a nerd when it comes to music, so I'm like, some of my favorite artists that are doing very well in their career. Some of my favorite songs are the ones that were recorded 15 years ago in a bar somewhere that just sucker punch my soul. And literally I will spend so much time on YouTube just going down rabbit holes to find these songs. And I'm like, man, I wish you would cut this. Or, I wish you would cut this. Because I think that's the beauty of where we're at now. You don't need this big money behind you to be able to express what is true to you.
I have a mantra, and it's I'll take now. And let me tell you, that gets me in trouble with people my age. Because there's a lot of romanticizing it about the old way it was. And you bring up a good point. Yeah, if you got a hit or two, you could get a better deal, better writing deal, and you could make a living from it. But man, there was another side of that stick when you're picking up that stick. I love that. One, if you really want to create, you can do it. The tools have been so democratized, and with all due empathy to jobs that have gone away because of that. But man, I love seeing creative tools be put in the hands of creators, and you can sit down with your laptop. Even if you just want to make a guitar vocal, you can freaking do it. I think you should create. I think people should write songs that mean something to them. If it makes you money and popular, more power to you. If it doesn't, that's just fine. It's important to get out. I loved John Mayer's first EP. The name of that first EP, which was all acoustics, was Inside Once Out. I'm like, absolutely. Inside Once Out. You know?
It's like, I don't know. When you catch the one song, it's just like, ooh, that's it. The type of song you sing over and over again after you're finished writing it, and everybody gets on it, and you're just like, woo, there's something in that. So, yeah. I mean, it's a few and far between, right? But when it comes, it just makes it worth doing. And I'm assuming it's probably the same with any art form of, okay, there's a lot of practice that has to go in between. So it's just like when it comes, you realize the reason why you're doing it. And, you know, I do have a core belief of mine is that, you know, whoever needs to hear or see or experience the art will. So let's get our hands off of, you know, trying to push expectations and like, all right, if this needs to be out, the people that need to hear it will, or the people that need to experience that art.
I love it. I love it. I think the next 5 to 10 years could be super interesting. Gosh, it's Billie Eilish, I guess, has been 10 years ago, maybe even more now, but I watched that with fascination. I remember in the early days of, you know, hard disk recording, we would say, you know, someday somebody's going to win a Grammy for a song they did in their bedroom. And that Billie Eilish thing, and I'm such a big fan of her brother. Oh my gosh, what he did. This is my favorite example. I got to quit using it because I've used it on so many episodes. But the creativity, you talk about a high level of creativity, to go in the bathroom with a iPhone and strike a bunch of matches, record it, and then use that for your snare. I live for that kind of stuff. And I just think the next 5 years plus, and I really look, Mo, for it. I look to see it happen in movies and television now, because I can't wait to see other voices being given a chance to contribute their creativity through this technology that's literally giving, and I know there's a downside. I know it's a double-edged sword. Trust me, I know. And we can go into social media, everything. But man, there's an upside. And that is, it gives tools to humans who are creative. And I can't wait to see what comes out of that.
Me neither. And I'm okay with not knowing. I'm just like, let's go. You know? Like, create a way. I think that's the beauty of art. And especially when you have art forms like coming together, like watching a movie with an incredible soundtrack. or going to Broadway and hearing the music that is with the show. It's just like there's so many spaces for creatives to express, and it's beautiful across the board, whether you're just starting, whether you've been in it for 50 years. I think just with how we are evolving in businesses and all of that, it's just like I'm excited while also holding grief for how it was.
That's fair.
Like, there's that. Also, just like both can be true, and you know what can be. I think there's a cool, if you sit with ambivalence of like, okay, what's coming next, right? I don't have to sit in the past. Like, all right, how can I grow with, not
this
against?
is so good. Crazy good. Crazy good. I'm listening to this. I'm a creative. I'm 28. I'm 58. There's something in me that wants to create. I just did a writer's night, Mo, over in, it was the Cumberland Mountain Songwriter Festival in Crossville, Tennessee. And all these regional, local writers started the show, and I just loved their hearts. And I loved that they're showing up, that they're writing, that they're creating. Putting on both your hats at once, therapist and songwriter. What would you say to people out there? I'm even gonna knead into the mix here. Maybe they're a little discouraged or overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm any good at this. I don't know if. How would you encourage them to show up and just start messing with their creative inclination?
It's a good question.
In a healthy way. Let me frame it like that. And, they're seeing all this success on YouTube and on TV, and gosh, well, what can I bring? And I got to bring this in again. I think you finding what you've found, which is this beautiful combo of your skills, a way of bringing those together, and it makes this new thing. It makes an organization, for crying out loud. Just the possibilities that can be out there that are so beyond Grammy-winning artist or CMA-winning artist, to wade into the waters of your life a bit and what your natural likes and dislikes are, and finding that path that might be a really unique fit for you that you could not have imagined. I dare say, I doubt you would have imagined, Mo, you doing what you're doing. I mean, it's just remarkable. And anyway, there's certainly no blueprint for it, but you said putting one foot in front of the other. A word you said, I'm sorry, I'm way over speaking here, but courage. Maybe that's the question I want to ask you before we end. What does courage look like when you're trying to act on some creative impulses?
I think courage can look, I guess, two different ways depending on where you're at. If you're stuck, what does courage look like? Is it to continue to sit with the creative genius until it shows up? Is courage looking like sitting in a room for an hour and just writing your butt off? And, if it's nothing, then it's nothing. And that's courage. And great. Or is courage when you're hitting up in your career or in your life and you realize that you need to make a shift and change? So I think courage is going to be different at whatever phase of life you're in. And sometimes it looks like keep going, and sometimes it looks like, hey, I need to pump the brakes a little bit here and take a breather and reassess. So I think that's going to be different for whatever stage of life you're in, and different for each person. Maybe it's doing the thing that terrifies you the most. Usually that's what I run after. I'm a little bit hard-headed, so sometimes that turns out in not great way. But I'm going to jump in the deep end, and whatever scares me the most, that's what I'm going to do.
Wow.
And then that has been an incredible saying yes to writing a song with 50 people in a very, very traumatic situation. I was terrified. And in that moment, that courage for me was saying yes and letting the creativity take the wheel and not my anxiety.
It's almost like you're going to experience fear regardless, but to not let fear, as Brene Brown says, drive the bus, or just not being afraid of fear. Like, yeah, I'm afraid, right? It's okay.
Yeah. Wonder if we sat with fear and walked with it instead of beating ourselves up for being afraid of something. Like, it's there for a reason. Thank God it's there. Could you imagine us without fear? Like, it would be.
Wow.
We wouldn't be here, be honest.
Wow. So good. So good. I wish I could have heard you 30 years ago. Because, wow. It's a great life, this human life, when we can bring our creativity into play. But it definitely involves fear. It involves courage. I love what you're saying, to be able to sit with it. That's beautiful. Well, Mo, I want to thank you sincerely. You have inspired me. You've encouraged me without even knowing it, just knowing your story. And I heard you speak recently, and it was so articulate. I thought, that person has to be a writer. She has to be a writer. It was so good. And I just appreciate, I've always said one of the greatest gifts somebody can give me is language for things that I'm feeling that I can't quite. And that's a big part of my story, is I just didn't have language, So thanks for who you are, for bringing these two worlds together of therapy and the arts, songwriting, singing. How can people get more of you? How can they hear your music? How can they experience all this wild, amazing stuff you're talking about?
I'm working on putting music out. That's been a thing that is a courageous thing for me. We'll say that. I preach to people all the time, right? You have a story, that means you are creative. That means you have a song in you. So I am working on putting music out. It's on the way. It's in the process. I have to, I guess, practice what I preach a little bit. So that's working. But of course, I have, socials where I put little snippets up of songs and things that I'm working on, a little bit of life and everything in between. So all of that's under Mo Tedder. And then also have Healing Heartstrings.
Where can we access Healing Heartstrings?
So it's on Instagram, and then also I have a website. It took me a little while to get there. So Instagram is Healing Heartstrings _, and then the website is healing-heartstrings.com. So that's where you can contact me if interested in doing anything like this or just want to chat, conversation. Also open to that, anything that I can either, help out with or direct in any form or fashion.
Wow.
I am happy to show up.
Thank you, Mo Tedder. You're doing a great work with your life. And as somebody who has navigated this crazy music world, I so appreciate it. I appreciate it for me selfishly, but I appreciate it for the other people that are really going to be nourished by what you're doing. And by the way, folks, if you're listening to this or if you're watching on YouTube, I will have all of Mo's contacts in the show notes and in the description. So check her out. She's amazing. So thank you, Mo. Thank you for your time. And thank you for all these great nuggets of wisdom.
I appreciate it. Love getting to chat for a little bit with you.
Thank you. Wow. What a story. Look, we're in a time of unprecedented disruption. Maybe you're experiencing that. Obviously, Mo did. To come here to Nashville and want a career in music, even if you get a hit, it's no guarantee that you're going to make enough money to survive. So I just think we're in a time when we've got to start figuring out other ways to do this without leaning on the old ways, on the old temples. Mo figured that out, and not only figured it out, it wasn't just picking a lock. In so doing, she's serving other people, she's nourishing other people, and it's what a beautiful way for those skills to come together. Therapy and songwriting, amazing, so inspiring. I really hope somehow it speaks to you to keep going and keep trying other combinations of what you do well to offer something to the world. We need it. We'd appreciate it. Okay? Thanks again for jumping in. We'll see you next time. And in the meantime, go make something.